Has, how do I couch this? An excuse. It was a difficult match for different reasons. My players after the international break are not the same. They weren't performing at their normal level. Now it gets interesting. One team wanted to win, another team wanted to draw. They defended a lot, and it's becoming quite trendy in the Premier League, this way of defending now. Okay, so there's a lot to unpack from that Jose Mourinho quote, as there often is. I don't know whether to start with the talk about what's trendy in the Premier League or the international break as an excuse. Ale, where do you want to start?
Well, first of all, so convenient that this happens after Manchester United is no longer perfect, right? Okay.
When did you expect it to happen?
Right. I'm not even going to acknowledge the international break part of it. That it's becoming trend in the Premier League for teams to defend well and go on counters and play for draws and all this other thing. Hold on a second. Jose, what have you been doing?
Right.
What did you...
Do you think he's kind of patting himself on the back for being a trendsetter?
I guess so. Well, if there was ever a trendsetter for that way of playing, it would be Jose Mourinho. So if that's what he's doing, what a genius he is. Otherwise, this guy's going crazy. He's going crazy. That's it.
Gab,
delusional.
This is kind of classic Jose Mourinho, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's like sort of chapter 2 of the Jose Mourinho manual. You know, when things don't go your way, rather than talking about the game and the mistakes and how terrible Bailly and Jones were, and you know, should you not have played Herrera? Should you have stuck with Mata and stuck with a system that got you those 3 wins? He gives you something else to talk about. Mark Hughes and the handshake, which we'll talk about, and you know, and new trends in the Premier League where smaller teams try to defend and hit you on the counter. I mean, look, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's the human lightning rod for a reason, and I think that's been part of his success all along. He generally will always stick up for his players, and the fact that we're talking about this, it means that we're not talking about whether Phil Jones is a credible Manchester United centre back.
So Gab mentioned it. Mourinho refusing after the match to shake hands with Mark Hughes. If there was an emoji with eyes rolled, it would be me right now at that. Janusz, it's so predictable.
Yeah, it is, but I thought he could be a lot more clever in that, right? I would have shook his hand and told him to fly a kite or whatever Hughes told him.
Well, that's quite the insult there, Janusz.
I can't mention that, what he said. You know what I mean? Because that would have been one way of getting
This does always happen with Hughes, though. And I should point out,
he has history, and he owned up to it. But
Hughes apparently wanted Mourinho tossed for entering his technical area.
And there's no place, by the way. I mean, you know, you have managers wanting to throw other managers out. You know, on the pitch, we always talk about yellow cards. You know, players pointing towards yellow, red cards. Now you know you got to have a little bit of respect. So yes, Hughes has history of that. I think Mourinho's got to be clever about this.
Yeah, yet another episode of Captain Deflecto here by Jose Mourinho.
Is he just this far ahead of everybody else? If I do this, I know that's what they'll talk about.
And that's what we're doing.
Yep.
And that's what we're doing. However, to our credit, the first thing that we did about Manchester United was breaking them down defensively. So he's not getting away with it here at ESPN. No. You're not going to put it past us. But it is classic Mourinho. It is Captain Deflecto. It is the idea that now he becomes the center of the story, that this controversy, if you can call it that, becomes the story rather than the performance of the team.
There's 100% that we're overanalyzing this. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this is, by the way, a good result for Manchester United.
So right? What? This is not a good result for Manchester United.
Listen.
Here it comes. This is like when Shaka comes out.
This is a game. It's early in the season. You win for 3. You go away to Stoke, right? Last time Manchester United won under Sir Alex Ferguson in 2013. Mourinho with Chelsea, and now Manchester United hasn't won there in I don't know how long. I was going to look it up. I didn't.
Okay, good preparation, Janusz.
Well, that's all right. I know he hasn't won for a long time, even with Chelsea, right? So you telling me, of course, Manchester United are a better team than Stoke, but there's going to be others. Arsenal lost there. That's another story. You tell me that it's horrible to win first 3 games, go away to Stoke and get a draw, right?
Yeah.
Not the end of the world. Who's top of the table?
Wait a minute. Were they not up 2-1?
They were. That's disappointing. But that's a different conversation. They should have seen that through by right. But at the end of the day,
it can be a different conversation when in the end you give up a result.
Yes.
He would rather the conversation.
But at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world.
Okay. He would rather the conversation
10
be...
points top of the league.
You want me to tell you to go fly a kite?
No, you can tell me all you want, but
let's
You
get
would
Gab
take
here.
away points? Ever?
Gab, what do you make of this handshake gate again with Jose Mourinho? I mean, it seems like the perfect thing to give us to chew on here in the press.
It is, and you know what? In the post-game interview, Mourinho was asked about the handshake, and he got all serious, and he said, you know, I'm disappointed that you're asking me this question because it's something so serious that I can't talk about it here, and blah blah blah. So he didn't talk about it, and instead, the version of events whereby Hughes apparently wanted him sent off and stuff, that came courtesy of Manchester United's media department. So, look, I don't have a problem if you're so incensed, but you know, face up to it. But instead, he adds these layers of mystery, and as we said, this is what he does. He sticks up for his team by going and making the story about him, acting like a human lightning rod. He thinks that, you know, he could care less about Mark Hughes, you know, but he's not offended by it. But what he thinks is, hey, right now, you know, we've dropped points for the first time this season. We have Champions League coming up. I know what we'll do. Let's go and give them something completely different to talk about. And he did it masterfully. And we're all falling for it. I guarantee you, neither Mark Hughes nor Jose Mourinho care one iota about the handshake or non-handshake.
Want to win, another team want to draw, but the team that want to draw fought hard for that. They defended a lot, and it's becoming quite trendy in the Premier League, this way of defend now. But they did well, and the team physically very strong, and I think they probably deserve the point. We tried to win. In the last 20 minutes, that was clear, but we couldn't. And we can say we could score more goals and win, yes, but we could also not concede that second goal, which is really a bad goal to concede. You know, 4 matches, 10 points, top of the league. You know, we are okay. We are okay. We know that many good teams in the league. Every match is a difficult match. Every point is a point that you have to fight hard for. So I am exactly with the same mood. I'm exactly with the same mentality that I had when we had 3 matches, 9 points, 10-0, and in goals. I'm exactly the same.
Performance as well. I think that's the important thing in terms of where we stand at the beginning of the season. I think arguably, almost certainly in my view, the performance today was better than the performance that we put in against Arsenal when we won. So I think that tells you how well we played, but how Man United will test teams this year. I thought they were excellent, and the power and the pace that they have. You need to be resilient and you need to stand up to the challenge. I thought we did that today. For the most part, United have had the ability and capacity just to sweep everybody else before them very comfortably. So we were never in any danger of really being overrun or overcome by them. And I think that shows us great credit. I think I pushed him because he was in my technical area. And I don't know why. Maybe that's why he didn't want to shake my hands, because I pushed him.
Well, he said there wasn't an issue over that.
Oh, well, maybe it's because it has to be viewed as a negative result for him. Coming to Stoke when everybody expected them to beat us, it's a negative. So sometimes managers of top 6 clubs sometimes don't take negative results too kindly, and sometimes because they're not used to having to take negative results, sometimes they react in the wrong way. Maybe he reacted in the wrong way. In fairness, I've got history with handshakes and non-handshakes, so maybe it's me. Who knows?
And his questions might be relevant because of a certain Mr. Mendes. Can he have a simple explanation of the financial fair play rule?
I'll let you take this one.
I don't even know if it exists, to be honest, but UEFA say it does.
Well, I mean, everyone's talking about PSG in that regard and how can they get away with this? I suppose what was maybe unfair on UEFA in this situation is that
this doesn't mean that PSG will get away with it. I mean, because it's always done at the like, they're not going to investigate him now. They're going to investigate him in about a year's time. So, and I think we could well see sanctions. I mean, we actually had
But what have they done wrong in simple terms?
Well, I suppose basically, I mean, put simply, you can only spend what you can afford. Well, with certain kind of caveats to that, yeah. And I suppose the issue would be that there's absolutely no way that PSG can realistically raise the money to pay for Neymar and Mbappe without external investment, which UEFA's regulations wouldn't allow in that regard. But I mean, there's a lot of talk about how say to get around this, PSG put in very very simple terms. PSG would just say, okay, well, the QSI, they're going to we've signed a new connected sponsorship deal, but instead of being 40 million, it's 160 million. But UEFA don't actually allow that, because UEFA have their own financial analysts who rate these things according to kind of what fair market value is. So say if Barcelona have a similar deal for 60 million, then there's no way this should realistically be 160 million. And they have taken that account in the past previously when punishing PSG. So it's going to be interesting what happens. And also, as we mentioned, the fact that the Spanish clubs are really kind of throwing their weight around in this regard and demanding answers.
I've got no sympathy for Barcelona whatsoever.
What about Manchester City? Are they in danger?
I would say they have. I mean, they've spent around about 250 odd million pounds so far this summer, and you know, you have to ask the same questions. You know, would you say that they're raking that amount in? So yeah, I would think they're in similar danger. The only thing, you know, you say get away with it, that phrase, get away with it. They've got the players they want, so they can achieve their objectives if they want to in football. Getting away with it would be if they were deprived of those players. But if you find them 20, 30, 40 million pounds, fine, they'll take that. And that's what makes so many people frustrated.
So you talk about achievement. Final question. And you know, before the season started, we all came up with our top 4 and bottom 3. Now we've got no excuse of being wrong because the transfer window's done and dusted. What's your top 4, bottom 3?
I still think Chelsea will win the league.
So do I, yeah.
I think that he's still got a very strong first 11. He's replaced players that he's lost. The Champions League's a different matter, but I think he'll finish first. United, Jose normally wins in his second season, but I think Conte will touch him off in this season. Spurs third. I'm going to go for Liverpool fourth.
I'm going to go Chelsea, City, United, and it's one of Liverpool or Spurs. Liverpool is spot. Right. I reserve the right to change that every single week.
And going down?
Brighton, I think, can't score.
Yeah, Brighton, they needed a striker in the window, didn't get one. They tried for Andoni and Janssen, couldn't get them. I think they'll go down.
Newcastle as well, actually.
Newcastle, I think, may go down. I'm worried about Palace, unless there is a dramatic change in their fortunes. The obvious ones, like Huddersfield, they started tremendously well, and they look to have recruited well as well. So I wouldn't necessarily say there'll be obvious ones to go down, but I think the other 3, yeah.
So the one thing that, I mean, I would say Palace and West Ham are in real danger. But I think when it comes right down to it, both of them will make the managerial change. They'll keep them up, and that's always going to the wild card when you're making these predictions. But on current form, at least, I'd say Brighton, Newcastle, and one of Palace or West Ham.
Well, it's still United champions for me, followed by City, Chelsea, and Liverpool. I had Stoke to go down with Huddersfield and Brighton, but I've changed my mind. West Ham don't seem to have the stomach for the fight. Thanks for joining us here on the Football Writers Podcast. There's a discussion around, privately amongst the chaps at the moment about the relevance of England. And we're in an England international break, and basically it's been completely overshadowed by transfer dealings and Premier League conjecture. Do you think the England team, Darren, is still relevant?
I think it is, but I have a private frustration about the fact that there is a condescension of fans' frustrations towards England. We, players, managers, even us in the media, we call on fans to get behind the team and support the team. and much, you know, to kind of buck a widely held belief, the media want England to do well. You know, there is this nonsense, we build them up and knock them down. What load of rubbish, you know, we want them to do well. But then, you know, when fans get upset, as they did on Friday night, about what was an absolutely shambolic performance, they get told they don't understand the game, and they get told, you know, get behind the team, whatever else. What they've been doing, we've been doing it all our lives, getting behind England. You know, I said the other day, if you had a mate who let you down as often as England, you'd stop taking his calls. It's just ridiculous. I mean, and what is it about that fans and that they can't express a view, but pundits are able to, and players are able to, everyone else is able to, except the people who have the financial investment in the team. Every time they play, it really annoys me that fans are dismissed in the way that they are.
Because, you know, to your point about the media, I think most of us want Gareth Southgate to succeed. He's a good guy, emotionally intelligent, you know, great communicator, got good ideas, but there's always a but. He's had 9 games now.
Also, the team has, you know, I was there on Friday night, and I like Southgate a lot. I think he's got good ideas, but you can't get away with the questions about his own previous record, I suppose. And I also think one of the issues with England at the moment is that the team has, after an initially bright start under him, I think they got progressively worse in terms of how they attack. They're a little bit formulaic. I think he does have an issue there. But in relation to the other, I mean, it's one of the interesting things, I suppose, in terms of the media in England. I suppose in journalism, I suppose, and even talking to some of our colleagues, covering the international game or covering your country, in the same way for a player, used to be kind of almost, this is a career pinnacle that you've reached. But yeah, I think maybe journalism almost reflects the sport in the same way, in that international football just doesn't have the relevance it used to. And that's a fact. And also, beyond that as well, because of the nature of the club game now, how sophisticated clubs are, how integrated the teams are, unlike 30 years ago, in the international game can never reach the quality of the club game. The best club teams will be so much better than the best international teams. And for those reasons and others, basically it just means it's become a bit of an afterthought in that sense.
And you know, it's important, Mike. It's important for us not to get swept away with this whole tub thumping nonsense. It's important for us to point out where the deficiencies are, that they're not doing well enough. People will turn around and say, you know, what about France drawing with Luxembourg? France win things. Germany win things. Spain beat the Netherlands 4-0 the other day. You know, sorry, Spain beat Italy, forgive me, the other day. The other day, France beat the Netherlands the other day. You know, England, they flattered to deceive. And people say, well, when we play against bigger teams, we do better. Yeah, but who did we get the Euros to? Iceland. Who did we struggle to beat in the World Cup? Algeria.
To that point, and this is where the quality of the questions improve, because I'm now going on to the section where we talk to the viewers and the listeners. Paul Fry says, look, is it worth England qualifying for Russia when we'll be lucky to get out of the group?
It's a good question, because Miggs talked about the recent run of Southgate. You look at the France game, we're a man up against France, and we've got the advantage numerically as well in terms of the scoreline. We can't see the game out. We're up against Malta, and listen, we know that they're a poor side who are going to pack men in front of the defence, but we got the quality. We set up. The team selection was poor in the first place.
I watched 3 international games this weekend. Obviously, the England one I was at, the Irish one when I was back in London on Saturday, that being half Irish, and then the Spanish one that night being half Spanish. And just the now obviously the England game is kind of, you know, it's Malta, it's a tankless game. Ireland, Georgia is basically two kind of, you know, Stoke against Stoke, or Stoke against West Brom, obviously in international terms. But the Spanish performance was light years out of both. I mean, and I think there is still just, like when I was watching that, having seen England live before, I think there's a huge gap here. And I think it's going to be an exciting World Cup in terms of the quality of some of the favourites there. We've got good Spain, good France, good Germany, a resurgent Brazil. I think an Argentina that will come good again. Belgium have potential. And I think at the moment, Belgium may be similar questions to England in that regard, but I think England are some way off that level.
What you want to see from games like Malta is some evidence. Listen, we take victory as a given. So people say, oh, we scored 4 goals and we're still getting criticised. We should be scoring 4 goals. But what we want from a game against Malta is to see how we've improved. Has the style of play improved? Do we play with authority? Do we pick the right teams? It's as much for Southgate to show us that he's improving as the players.
But the problem for England, actually, and this is, I think, connected to so much of this, basically for the last 2 decades, since Euro 96, basically because qualification is almost always a given. They usually do it very easily, to be fair. It basically means that the only England games that ever matter are the first knockout of the tournament. That's the only one that can see any significance. That's what it all comes down to.
The irony of this, though, is all against the backcloth of England's development teams doing really well. I saw a couple of their games last week. Mark Umney asked us to look at the case of Jadon Sancho, 17 years old, turned down £30,000 a week for his first pro contract at Man City, joined Dortmund for $8 million. No first team starts anywhere, as Mark says. He's given Dembele's shirt. I hope he thrives, he says, but is that too much pressure?
Do you want to do this? Your paper did this, didn't
yeah,
you?
Yeah,
Your paper did it very well.
Covering a lot as well, yeah. I'm slightly surprised to go to Spurs because I think they're one of the few top 6 clubs that will actually give a young player a chance in that regard.
But City didn't want him anywhere near another club.
Exactly, yeah. But I think that's why I think you have to praise the decision, because he's... you've seen when we mentioned Ruben Loftus-Cheek there. I mean, you have to, where could his career be now had he been getting regular game time and not kind of this... I think one of the problems kind of reserve football where they've played is that they're kind of no consequence environments, really. And you can't really hone yourself as a player in that when you're in that situation. Whereas Sancho, he's going to force the issue, and I think that is, and also again, like Spurs, he's at a club that will play him, and they've made that very clear with how they treated him.
Dembele's gone to Barcelona. It staggered me at the time. He's only in his 2nd professional season, and yet they've paid over £100 million for him. But it's a measure of how much Dortmund have improved him and what Sancho needs. He's a terrific, towering talent. He needs regular first-team football. He doesn't need to go to a Premier League club where he's going to come on for 20 minutes at the end of games.
If he's lucky.
If he's lucky, exactly. Or shuffled into the background. He needs to go somewhere like a Dortmund who will give him not only the game time that he needs, but surround him with the talent to get the best out of him. I think he has made a wonderful decision for his career, and that's what we've seen as a feature of this summer. A number of young players making the best decisions for their career rather than being starry-eyed and being led into joining big clubs for the sake of it.
Okay.